Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. You know that feeling when your stomach drops at the sound of a text notification and it's from them again? The sibling who always finds a way to ruin the holidays, the one who turns family group chats into battlegrounds, the one who shows up just to tear you down, or worse, vanishes only to reappear when there's a drama, blame, or someone they want to put a guilt trip on. Maybe you've spent years wondering, am I the problem? What if I just tried harder to keep the peace? Why do they seem to hate me so much? What happens when the person who hurts us is family? I've lived that pain and I know you're not the problem. So let's talk about it. I'm Carrie McKenna Reese. I survived a childhood shaped by trauma, and today I'm a trauma recovery coach helping fellow survivors untangle themselves from the toxic family dynamics they were born into and reclaim the voice they were never allowed to use. My own journey in healing revealed some painful truths about myself and the people around me, my family, the ones who should have loved and protected me. We have to claw our way through the wreckage of that reality. We have to face the grief of what never was and the betrayal of what should have been. Then we have to find our footing, step into the truth of who we are, and restore the part of ourselves that was silenced. So, if your life today feels like a series of emotional landmines, especially when it comes to your parents and siblings, stay with me. What happens when the person who hurts us is family? You're not imagining things. You're not being dramatic. And no, you are not the villain in their story. But that doesn't stop them from casting you in that role. Trauma doesn't just stop when the abusers stop, right? It doesn't just stop with them, it ripples through the whole family. If you survived the trauma of abusive or neglective parents, it's likely that your siblings absorbed that same chaos. And now that sibling cycles it back to you. Being abandoned as a child isn't just emotional, it's neurological. It changes brain development. And when people don't heal, they grow into adults who react from that same place of fear, scarcity, or control they reacted from as a child. We can absolutely relate and understand what they went through, but that doesn't mean excusing the harm they caused today. They are accountable for that. Empathy doesn't require that we allow them access to our lives. You can care deeply about someone and still need distance from them because of their behavior. This is the trauma of being the one who has it all together or is consistently healing. If you're the sibling who's steady, who's aware of the patterns, who's healing, who's doing the work, sometimes you become the emotional dumping ground simply because you're not in crisis. This happens a lot to those who are healing, coming out of toxic family dynamics, and it's most definitely not fair to you. Some families function like emotional firehouses. They pull you back into the flames again and again, not because you belong there, but because it's all they've ever known. Their life is a mess and they need someone to blame. Why? Because blame is easier than accountability. Because when someone refuses to look inward, they have to project outward. And if you were the one who learned to grow, to heal, to break this cycle, you instantly became a threat to the system they're still stuck in. Your healthy moral character disrupts the illusion they are desperately clinging to. It reminds them of everything they've buried, avoided, or denied. And instead of facing their pain, they project it onto you. You broke the unspoken family contract, the one that says, keep quiet, play along, and don't make waves. And and when you didn't, when you sought justice for yourself, started healing, setting boundaries, saying no, or simply disappearing from the dysfunction, when you stopped drinking the poison per se, that's when the blame started. I was 4 years old when I sought help and told my mother I was being sexually abused. And from that moment on, I was branded the problem child, the black sheep, the scapegoat, the one blamed for everything that went wrong. I wasn't the one battling addiction. I wasn't the one in and out of jail, but I became the target, not because I created chaos, but because I revealed it, because I dared to speak the truth. And that truth made her and my siblings, along with some other family members, deeply uncomfortable. It made them uncomfortable then, and it still does today. So as I grew up and I grew into a young adult and I began digging my way out of the family's toxic dysfunction, my siblings, they would often accuse me of thinking I was better than everyone else. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. I wasn't judging them. I simply saw them and my mother for exactly who they are and chose something different for myself. I looked inward, craving peace, healing, and a more authentic way to live. We can't fix others or shape them into the version that we long for, but we can do the courageous work of facing our own wounds, healing them, and building a life rooted in clarity, peace, and self trust. So, how much of their pain are you supposed to carry? It's not our job to fix our siblings or our parents. It's not our responsibility to carry the emotional wreckage of their soft spots, triggers, or unresolved trauma. And it's certainly not our fault that they are unhappy, angry, stuck, bitter, or blaming today. Their life is a mess because of the choices they made and continue to make. It's not a mess because you chose to heal, you chose to honor yourself and set boundaries. It's not a mess because you stepped away from the dysfunction. Blame is what happens when healing is avoided and pain gets passed down like an inheritance. Unhealed wounds often wear the mask of love, and blame becomes the language of those still bleeding. So, what do you do when love becomes the thing that hurts you? One of the things about trauma survivors is we love deeply. I'd love to have a healthy, loving relationship with my mother and siblings. We're woven that way from soul to heartstrings. But here's the truth, and this is really hard to swallow, especially when you love them. Sub siblings and our parents as well, they aren't just struggling, they're soul sucking, right? And they thrive on drama, manipulation, triangulation, and control, especially if they never learned how to self-regulate their nervous system. They never learned how to control their emotions or take ownership of their own pain. Maybe they gaslight you. Maybe they sabotage your success. Maybe they guilt you into staying connected, but never offer real connection. Maybe they still weaponize your childhood trauma to make themselves look like the victim, to make themselves feel big where you feel small. And yet you keep hoping. You keep thinking maybe this time it'll be different, that maybe you can be the peacemaker, the fixer, the forgiver. That was me. I've given chance after chance, holding out hope that maybe this time they'd meet me in the middle. But each time I was left standing in the wreckage, wounded and feeling emotionally abandoned all over again. It left me an exhausted mess. I was torn between who I am and who they expected me to be to keep them comfortable in their own dysfunction. And it hollowed me out until one day I realized love shouldn't require me to negotiate who I am. It shouldn't cost me my own identity. So the question I have for you today is, what is the price of your love? Love should not feel like a survival strategy. When love becomes a battleground for approval, acceptance, or basic disrespect, it's not love. It's survival. And you were not born just to survive your family. You were born to thrive well beyond it. So, what's the real cost of loving someone who keeps hurting you? Do you feel it should cost you your peace? Should it cost you your self-worth? Your nervous system? Should it leave you in knots, anxious and always on edge? Should it cost you your joy? What has it taken from you to keep offering love to people who respond with blame, silence, and cruelty? You were never meant to be the scapegoat, the emotional punching bag, or the invisible support beam holding up someone else's dysfunction. You weren't meant to live. You were meant to live, to love without fear, to grow without shame, to be freely, fully, and unapologetically you in a way that honors and cherishes who you are. And sometimes that path to healing means grieving the parents and siblings you wish you had, the ones you hoped would grow with you, love you well, and show up differently. It means gently and firmly, without guilt, releasing those who can't meet you where you are, no matter how much you've prayed, pleaded, or hoped they would. Sometimes that the most loving thing you can do is let them go and love them from a great distance. If you're watching this and feeling a lump in your throat, tears in your eyes, or even a sense of calm, that's your body recognizing the truth. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to choose peace over proximity. You are allowed to stop explaining, justifying, and proving yourself. Let them blame you. Let them twist the story. Let them stay stuck. If that's what they choose, let them. You've got healing to do. You've got a future to build. You've got your own magnificent life to live. If this message stirred something in you, you deserve to be seen, supported, and understood. And I hope you find that in my channel. If you haven't already, follow, subscribe, share this video, and join me here where truth lives, healing is possible, and you never again have to carry shame that isn't yours. I believe in you always.